and I looked at my mom and I was crying and I had tears down my face. And I was like, I just want to know what I'm supposed to do.
God.
Like, I just want to know. I don't want to be in this situation anymore.
Oh, yeah. You know what time it is. It's time to get a little Fronky up in here. This is Let Me Be Fronk.
It's time to get funky. We're all getting funky. It's time for a Lisa Fronk. A Lisa Fronk.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let Me Be Fronk, the show I've yet to come up with a hook for, but that's okay. We're a work in progress over here. I am your host, Alyssa Fronk, and I know I say this every week, but y'all are seriously in for a treat today. We have a very special guest here in the Let Me Be Fronk studio. If you had told me 3 years ago that this guest would be on my pod show that I created, I wouldn't have believed you for many reasons. She's a multi-hyphenate entrepreneur based in the Boston area who first came across my desk via the platform TikTok. More on that in a second. In 2019, she launched Personal Brand Accelerator, which teaches people all over the world how to build an effective brand. She also hosts the Personal Branding Podcast, which explores building authentic personal brands and creating highly effective content for social media. She organically grew her nearly 200K plus social following through beautifully curated content featuring her writings and artistic eye. Her work has been featured in Entrepreneur, Founder, The Startup, and Girl Boss. Ever heard of it? In addition to speaking at conferences such as Social Media Week. And her first self-published book, Lonely Girl, will hit stands later this year. If you aren't impressed by that impressive resume, you'll certainly be after this conversation. Aside from being a dynamic creator, she's an incredibly kind individual with a gift for connection, and one of my favorite people to have conversations with. When she's not juggling one of her many projects, you can find her on a motorcycle with her fiance Trevor, being a devoted dog mom to Maggie and Lawrence, hosting the occasional silent disco, and always hunting for the perfect almond croissant. Please welcome to Let Me Be Fronk, my friend, Anna Vatuone.
Alyssa, I feel so seen.
Good, I did my job.
I feel so seen and understood. That is such a gift.
That is amazing feedback. Thank you so much. I prepped last night.
You hit all of the categories. Almond
Okay.
croissants, motorcycles, personal branding,
Yeah.
dogs.
I like to, obviously hype up and showcase the professional milestones, all that you have accomplished, because you are an extremely accomplished woman, but you also have this really cool, fun life, a very full, vibrant life. And that's really what I feel connected to you through, aside from all the professional things. And I had to, of course, shout out Trevor and the dogs and your love for almond croissants. I really appreciate that about you.
It is a strong love. Well, you know what actually got me to love almond croissants?
What? Please tell me.
I
I'm on
was-
that edge of my seat.
I was sitting with my mom. We were at a cafe once, and she said, growing up is realizing that almond croissants are better than chocolate croissants.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I was like I am a chocolate lover.
Yeah.
And after that conversation, I started ordering almond croissants just to see what she was talking about. And she's right. Almond croissants are better than chocolate croissants. They just are.
There's more of a flavor profile.
Exactly.
Yeah. The almond paste, if done right, is very, very good.
Yes. With the doughy, buttery croissant.
I will say, you made me re-examine my relationship with almond croissants, which was pretty much non-existent before knowing you. I too would reach for the chocolate croissant every time because I love chocolate. I love I'm honestly, truth be told, I'm a huge donut girl. That's my baked good of choice. I think I send you pictures almost every time I see a good one, and I'm like, thinking of you.
It makes me so happy. I love it.
Do you get that from other people too?
I do have people message me about it.
Does that make you feel loved?
It does. It makes me feel very loved. And it makes me want to have almond croissant memorabilia around my house.
It'd be one of those girls with an almond croissant purse. I'm gonna find you one.
Yes. People have sent me that.
Like
I think
links?
Kate Spade has
Yes!
an almond croissant purse.
Kate Spade be making the cutest shit. I am eyeing a tennis bag right now. Mama's gonna buy it. Mama's gonna buy it once we launch. That's gonna be my present to myself.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. When I was conceptualizing this show and outlining people I definitely wanted to have on, you were top 5 name always. I was like, I must have Anna Vatuone on here because you've been a huge cheerleader for me and you've really encouraged me to put myself out there more. And I met you in 2022. Since I've known you, you have been a positive bug in my ear to keep doing more. I thank you for that. You are one of the people I credit for making it here and like having the courage and the guts to actually go through something like this. And you actually, not to brag, people aren't going to believe this, you better confirm. When we first met, you were like, I don't understand why you're not a thing already. You said that to me.
I still believe it. I mean,
So-
you are a thing now.
I'm becoming a thing. I am a woman and a person, of course. So I'm going to get into how we met because I think it's an incredible genesis. Anna Vatuone is visiting me for the weekend. We're having a little girls' weekend. And I have to say, I really am enjoying this format of having a friend come over, stay at my apartment with me, and then we just shoot. And then we have a fun weekend together. I think I'm going to make this a thing.
It's very intimate. You
Yeah.
truly get to know your guests.
Anna Vatuone in Brooklyn. Cheers. Oh, look who snuggled in for the night.
Oh, look who just snuggled in for the night.
Good night, Anna Banana.
So nurtured and taken care of.
Okay, good. That's what I want people to experience when they come to La Casa de Frank.
Highly recommend. 10 out of 10.
I love hosting. It's my passion.
I just finished editing a bulletin for my newsletter I'm going to send out tomorrow morning. And I finished making a TikTok video and I'm going to post today.
Lovely. Can't wait to see. What time did you wake up?
4:30.
What? That's never could be me. Never could be me. Bright and early to prepare for a new episode of Let Me Be Fronk, shooting with Anna Vatuone. I stayed up probably too late prepping, but I feel really good. I'm really excited about our interview today. I'm gonna go get ready. Charlie Puth should be a bigger artist.
Dude, don't. He's like an AI to me. I'm like, is this a real person?
I'm about to play the Let Me Be Fronk theme song for none other than Miss Anna Vatuone, so we're gonna get her live reaction.
Okay, I'm ready.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Go, team!
You got it.
Wait, that is so awesome.
Is that
Who
fun?
did that?
Sometimes it's so intense, like especially because she is like very genderqueer looking, and so she gets a lot of just like random people who are like you can't hurt me,
Yeah.
you know, but it's like
In Manhattan, about to go get some food.
Starving.
Why would they do that? We're right here.
My beautiful date.
We're talking a cocktail in my hand. To our girls' weekends.
Really, that's what's funny. I'm glad I got the match with
She's in action.
Such a pretty day. Yeah, it really is. So much to look at.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Nutty dessert.
I'm obsessed with this.
Wow.
Where he does or where he lives exactly, so he could be.
And baby, when I'm through, I'll get more loving from the dum-dum loving than I ever got from.
He has no cash.
My favorite movie is You've Got Mail. Or at least it used to be. Have you seen it recently? I watched it for the first time in years this weekend, and I was appalled by the ending. Tom Hanks' character basically manipulates Meg Ryan into falling in love with him and lies about the fact that he's the one she's been emailing for months of her life. Not to mention, he gets her to tell her all of these details about what she thinks of her mystery internet guy. And at the end, he reveals it's him, and she still falls for him.
I wanted it to be you.
Anyway, that's a different story for a different day. My outfit today is inspired by Meg Ryan in You've Got Mail. I'm wearing this blue
Okay, Miss Vatuone.
Hi.
What did we do today?
We went to Blank Street Coffee and we got coffees, almond croissants, and then Alyssa Fronk took me to a fabulous bookstore called Greenlight Books.
Yeah.
And your girl got a few.
Would
Shall
you like
I show
to? Please.
Okay.
You must.
The first book I got, which by the way, I tried to put this back on the shelf and then it fell off the shelf because I felt like it wanted me to buy it. There we go.
Definitely a sign.
You Are the Universe.
Love.
Love. Okay. The second one is the book of mothers because today is motherhood. And we've been talking a lot about motherhood this weekend.
You said today is motherhood.
Today is motherhood, aka Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And since we've been talking about motherhood all weekend, I was like, I feel like this is calling to me.
Yes.
And then this one is Yellow Face, which a couple of people recommended it to me. I don't know much about it yet, but I'm excited to dive in.
So exciting. What a great haul.
Bagels. Yeah, we went to Bagels. Haven't eaten the bagel yet. I think I'm going to save that for my road trip.
Lovely idea. Back to Boston. Anna is on her way back to Boston, but she forgot her coffee, so I'm running it out to her car before she gets. My silly Anna banana.
Thank you.
There you go. Safe travels back. This was such a fun weekend. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
Part 2 after you're married. Bye. Love you. We've only met in person once before this, but
Does not feel that way.
It doesn't. Anna Vatuone first came across my desk. I believe the year was 2021. It was like fall, winter 2021. And I found her on TikTok. When I saw her content, it kind of stopped me in my tracks because it was so cinematic. Anna's a writer and she has a very visual, artistic eye. And you're incredible at capturing beautiful scenic footage. And as a landscape lover myself, I immediately was like, ooh, this girl gets it and she's good. This stuff is good. Follow. And then Anna did something very spontaneous. She packed up her entire life and she road tripped across the country without any set destination. And you're like, I'm just going to pick somewhere to live. I think you wanted it to be the East Coast.
Yeah.
If at the time I was like, oh my God, I think this girl is so cool because I too had packed up my life in North Carolina and made this really bold move to New York City. And I was so invested. Your platform was growing exponentially at that point. And I don't think fan is the right word. I just was an admirer of your work and I connected with it. That was a time where I really started to pay attention to people making things that I admired and wanted to aspire to be at that level, if that makes sense. Yeah. You went home to Idaho for the holidays. Idaho's a gorgeous state, it turns out. Who knew? Not me. You were documenting like staying with your parents on their farm, and it was just so beautiful and idyllic. And your parents, I believe, had a dog that had puppies, and you decided you were going to bring one home and like you were adopting one as your dog. And then you convinced your best friend and roommate at the time. Shout out Crystal Enriquez. She is a friend of mine and a friend of the show. She will be a future guest. Stay tuned. And you convinced her to come out there and road trip back with you with 2 puppies. She adopted one, you adopted one, and you traveled back to Boston. You did a road trip with 2 puppies from Idaho. Tell us about that experience.
If my heart is in something, I can move mountains. If I am invested in something, there is nothing I won't do. But if I'm not into it, forget it. I am like the laziest person ever. I will not do it if I'm not actually invested. And so when I got to Idaho, my parents' dog Zoe had this litter of puppies. And Lawrence and Lisa were the last ones without a home. And I had an instant connection to Lawrence. I knew I was going to take him home.
Handsome boy, I must add.
Handsome boy. My mom named
handsome.
him after Laurence Olivier.
Love.
Because she said he reminded her of a classic man from a classic era.
He is a classic man. Incentive to be on the YouTube page. We will be adding in images of the one and only Lawrence.
Yes.
Lawrence Vatuone.
Lawrence Vatuone. He is so funny. But I knew he was mine and I knew I was going to take him back. The only other detail we had to figure out was Lisa. And I easily could have left Lisa in Idaho and she could have found a home.
Were
No
they
problem.
a bonded pair? Was that the thing?
That was the thing. My
Okay.
mom said I always saw Lawrence and Lisa together. And so I called Crystal up and I said, I'm going to take Lawrence back. I'm renting a car. I'm driving from Idaho to Boston. We have this other puppy, Lisa. Like, would you be interested? I didn't even finish my sentence. And she goes, yes, absolutely. 100%. And that's the thing with Crystal. If she believes in it, she's the same way. Nothing will stop her. She will do whatever it takes to make something happen. And she really wanted Lisa and like really wanted to have a dog of her own. And so I started driving the puppies, and the first 2 nights I was by myself. Immediately I regretted my decision. I was like, what the fuck did I just sign up for? Because, you know, puppies, they were under 4 months.
Babies,
They had never left the farm.
Oh, they were
had never
freaking out.
The first I started driving, I made it all of 20 minutes before they threw up all over the back seat of the car.
No.
Yes.
And you had to pull over and clean it.
Yep. It was, I mean, they had never left the nest, you know? And here are these 2 dogs, these farm dogs, who I'm driving all the way across cities and state lines. They're in the car for 5 days. Luckily, Crystal met me in Minneapolis. So we drove from Minneapolis to Boston the rest of the way. And I had this time crunch. I had to make it back to Boston so I could catch a flight from Boston to LAX to go to my friend's bridal shower. And I had this whole plan, like I was going to make it back to Boston. Crystal was going to watch the dogs, and I was going to go to my friend's bridal shower and come back.
Wow.
Why did I think that was a good idea? I don't know.
It was an ambitious plan.
It was highly ambitious. And we ended up taking 5 days on the trip. I convinced Crystal to not sleep and just drive 24 hours straight. Because I was like, we are just going to get there and we are going to make it in time for my flight to leave. And our last 12 hours of the trip were really 12 hours from hell. It was a blizzard. It was the middle of winter. We had no sleep. We were both nauseous. It was the worst.
Were the puppies crying?
They were okay. They luckily had each other. And when we finally made it to Beacon Hill, we got out of the car and we all just had the biggest group hug. And it was still snowing and all the roads were closed. And we just
God.
We're like, yes, we made it. And it was a trip of a lifetime. Like, I will never forget that. As crazy as it was such a fun experience doing that together. And Crystal and I really bonded. We hardly really knew each other at that point.
Okay, so that really glued you to it. Mothering these sibling puppy children together. And you went from single women, we're dog moms now.
Yeah, we were partners.
I love that.
Partners. Took care of the dogs like they were ours together. We were like a family.
I love that.
And that was the first time where I was like, honestly, friendship is one of the most important aspects of a life.
Amen.
Like really having people in your corner and building relationships with your friends as you would with a romantic partner.
Absolutely.
Is of equal importance, if not more important.
I am steadfast in the camp of relationships and friendships specifically are the most valuable thing in life, and invest in good people and keep them around. I think friendships make and break a lifetime.
Oh, yeah. There's a real loss when we don't have friendships or people that we feel like we can rely on. As of the last couple of years, I've just realized like how much, friendship is just, it's everything.
Right.
And it's something that doesn't come as easily when we're adults. It's something we really have to invest in.
You have to work at it. You have to be really intentional. Yeah. I loved the puppies. That made me go to your Instagram and follow. I had just stepped away from my big girl media job and I decided to pivot and pursue freelance work. And I came across your personal brand accelerator course and I was like, you know what? My brand needs some work. Alyssa Fronk needs to make a website. I need to kind of get my shit together. So I applied and then I had an interview with you and Sachiko via Zoom. It was so crazy because you were just this person I thought was so cool on TikTok, and then you were talking to me via Zoom, interviewing me.
You bamboozled us. Alyssa was so funny. She gets on this interview. She's wearing a blazer. She shows up, and she is the most professional, cohesive, just like has her shit together. I was so impressed by her. I was like, why does she need this course? She's got this. Like, she doesn't need us. It was so funny because we were so impressed by you on the interview. Obviously accepted you, like wanted you to join. We were thrilled when you joined. And then I actually got to work with you up close and personal, which usually I wasn't leading any of the breakout sessions, but because I had a coach, had to step down for personal reasons. And so I stepped in. Which
I was thrilled about because I like signed up for this course being like, I better fucking get to talk to Anna Vatuone. I loved that course. I had the best small group. I have to brag. Shout out to my girls, Sarah Kronk, Sarah Busser, Sarah LaFleur, Lillian, Francesca Neighbors, Caroline DeStefano. We had the best group ever. I still talk to these girlies, love them dearly. Shout out. Hope you're listening. Name dropping to see if you are, but we'll see.
If they reach out or not.
crazy.
When Alyssa was in our group, she was the most spunky, charismatic, fun,
I'm embarrassed.
just wild girl. And I was like, who is this person? But you
Yeah.
made our group. You kept it lively. You kept it fun. And I will say, Alyssa had the best attendance. She was at every single call. She did all of the things.
Of course.
You came so prepared. You had
Most of the time.
everything down pat. And I was like so blown away by you.
Thank you. I was very vested in the program. I was like, wow, this is really going to help me kick off the next era of my career. My website's going to be done. I'll have my brand story, all these things that I finally just made the time and I put money behind it. It was perfect. It was perfect. And then for me, the best part was all the relationships that I made through it, because I was not expecting that at all. I just thought I was going to sign on this online course, do my work, sign off, and that would be it. But I actually networked with dozens of cool, motivated, kind, accomplished people from all over the world. I didn't even know how much I wanted this, but I'm so glad I'm here and I'm so glad I'm meeting these people. And zooming 2 years out, these people are farther advanced in their careers now, doing incredible things. And the PBA community is a cheerleader community, and we're cheering for each other from afar. Some of these girls are my lifelong friends now. Like me and Sarah Kronk, she's the Kronk to my Fronk. Like we talk all the time.
You two were like meant for each other.
I would have hated if I had to go this lifetime without knowing her. I'm so glad I met Sarah Kronk.
What a beautiful sentence that was.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Kronk and Fronk.
I know.
We were star-crossed lover
know.
friends.
Truly, you were made to meet.
I agree. It was the best. I had such a great time, and it kicked off a beautiful friendship. I kind of thought after that, I was like, okay, like Anna Vatuone has to go back to being an important businesswoman and follows me on Instagram, and that's cool. I'll just take my win when I can get it. But no, we've stayed friends.
I'm fully confident. Like I can fully confidently say this. That was the most special round of PBA.
Really?
Yes.
Oh
and
my
the
God.
most special, I think, time that I had within that program. It's changed so much now. And we really got close.
You said it was one of your most successful rounds, right?
It was to date the most successful round.
How many people were in that round?
30.
I even loved the big breakout group calls.
Yeah.
And hearing from everyone else. I'm really, really glad I found you and PBA. Stemming back to what I said earlier about being intentional with friendships, I really was craving a deeper network of women in particular who were working really hard at a goal, a passion, a career, but also were cool and fun. I had a little bit of a absence of that in my life at a time, so it filled the void. And it wasn't people I had directly worked with, which I think is so important. I'm going to give you all a free networking tip right now. Your professional network should include people you've never worked with, you've never met through the same company, that are doing things that you maybe aspire to do yourself, or you're just inspired by the work. Have them in your corner, because they give excellent perspective that you're not going to get from your close bubble of co-working friends or maybe even mentors at times. It's really those outside perspectives that have helped me a lot. Again, this show is a result from me doing PBA. Yeah. I've always wanted to do a show. PBA gave me more courage, confidence, because I was getting this incredible group feedback. Okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe people will tune in. I mean, we'll see. But
I mean, you've always known you wanted to host.
I've always wanted to do more camera-facing work and talk to people. Talking, being fun, helming creative things. That's really where my heart is. But I kind of am in the space where I'm like, I need to create the opportunities for myself because they're not knocking on my door.
What's been the most fun for you to create for this show?
I've really liked making the set because I love interior design. I have been steadily redecorating my apartment for the past 2 years, maybe 2.5 now. And creating this set was a fun challenge for me because I wanted it to work with my living space and fit seamlessly into my home without being this big, bulky, clunky, weird thing. I kind of turned this into like a lounge area, if you will. So when I'm not filming over here, this is still very much used. Like I'll just sit here and have a coffee with friends, and it feels so cozy and intimate. The curating of the look, the design, the feel has really satisfied an itch I have. All right, Anna. So I was wondering if you could indulge us in painting the picture of your life. Your early years. I'm talking the elementary, middle school, high school eras. Who are you? Where did you grow up? Set the scene for us.
The first thing that comes to mind was I had curly, red, big hair. Yes.
Okay, Julia Roberts.
Freckles. Very pale skin.
So you were stunning.
Oh my gosh. I did not feel stunning. I got made fun of for my red hair.
Really?
Yeah. People would call me names and like call me a fire crotch.
At what age?
I would say maybe that was like junior high, high school. I always wanted to do the right thing. I wanted to be good.
You're a goody good at heart.
At heart.
Which
100%.
Me too.
Yeah. I really am. Like
I don't like getting in trouble.
I don't like getting in trouble. I don't like it at all. I have to follow the rules because I can't lie and I can't do anything wrong without getting caught. So I just know that I have to just.
You have a conscience the size of Texas.
Thank you, my love.
You're welcome. Do you know what people called me in high school?
What?
Good little church girl. They said, oh, there's Alyssa Fronk, the good little church girl.
I relate. Yeah, I grew up going to church. That was a mandatory every Sunday, rain or shine. We went to church.
Were you Wednesday night church too?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Youth group Wednesday night, baby.
Okay. Did you ever do Awana or anything like
yeah.
that? You did?
Oh, yeah. Awana.
You grew up in the California area, right? You're a West Coast girly.
I'm a West Coast girly. I did not grow up in Idaho. I grew up in Gilroy, California, which is the garlic capital of the world. It's our town.
Shout
claim to
out.
fame. Yeah.
Do you like garlic? Are you a big garlic girl?
I'm a garlic girl. Through and through.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Noted. I throw garlic at your head.
To private Christian school.
Same. Like K
Up
through
until
12.
high school. And then I went to public high school.
Anna, same.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
we know this?
I think we may have talked
About
this.
once before. I got on my hands and knees and begged my parents to let me go to public school and
Me
high
too.
school because I was aware that if I didn't, going to college was going to be traumatizing.
That was my argument as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So I
get
went to
it.
Gilroy High.
Shout out.
Shout out Gilroy High. Home of the Mustangs.
That's a good mascot.
Great mascot. Yeah.
You were a
Blue and white.
cheerleader.
I was a cheerleader. I love.
Were you captain?
I was captain.
Woo woo.
I loved cheerleading so much.
After high school,
Sonoma State University, baby.
how far away from home was that?
2.5 hour drive
Okay.
to school to become a teacher.
No, you did not.
I totally did. I thought I was going to be an elementary school teacher.
Of
Because I
course.
always grew up wanting to be a teacher. I had a pretend school. Actually, it wasn't pretend. It was legitimate. I had 4 desks, a chalkboard, and a teacher's desk
Oh, shit.
in our garage. And we made a makeshift classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I would bribe my brothers and some of the neighborhood friends to come over and play school with me. And they would begrudgingly agree, but like hated it. And that was like my playing out my little fantasy of being a teacher.
That's
And
so cute. Just such a high from just like scribbling stuff on a board. Being like, oh my God, this is my passion. Like,
my passion.
me and my sister had a whiteboard in our shared bedroom and we would play school and we had expo markers.
Yes.
In so many different colors. And we felt some type of way about it.
I didn't end up getting my credential because I figured out about my junior year, senior year that I wasn't going to take the traditional path I thought with teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure what I was going to do after college. So I just ended up getting like just a degree in liberal arts.
What caused you to pivot?
I studied abroad in Italy.
Tell us more.
That was quite a year. It was a lot of fun. Studying is generous. I did not do any studying.
You were gone for a year, right?
I was gone for a whole year.
Where in Italy?
Florence.
Hell yes.
Hell yes. It was truly a remarkable year. And it was an experiential year. Did a lot of drugs, drank a lot of alcohol, smoked a lot of cigarettes.
Good for
It
you.
was- I
You went
lost my
full.
virginity. Like,
Oh
it
my
was,
God.
like, that year.
So it literally changed your life being
Changed
abroad.
me. Good times. It was good though. I needed that because I was kind of sheltered. You know, I went to private school and I wanted to like experiment and I wanted to try everything. And in college, I felt really insecure and I was scared to go out. I was scared of boys
Same.
and literally scared of them. I thought
Oh,
they were
I
so
didn't.
mean.
I didn't touch boys in college.
No, bad vibes. But in Italy, I felt like a different person, or I had permission to be a different person.
Do you feel like that was your rebellious year?
Totally.
Like the year you went crazy and just kind of did what you want?
Yeah.
I love that you had that though.
I needed that. Yeah, it was
Totally.
important. And I traveled a lot. I got to take my first solo trip. That was like when I really discovered how fun it was to be alone and to
Yes.
do my own thing. And
What
it
are some of the
was-
places you went to?
I went to Morocco. I went to Switzerland and Vienna and Paris, Barcelona. We were
Amazing.
all over. Yeah, it was great. And so when I came back from that year, I discovered, okay, I think I want to go in the direction of teaching maybe someday, but not in the traditional way that I initially thought.
Okay.
So I was like, I think I'm just safer getting a bachelor's degree in liberal arts and not getting my credential.
You finish up your year abroad, you come back, you graduate. What's next?
My mom got diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And so when I found that out, I immediately moved back in with my parents, which was actually good because I really didn't know what I was going to do after college. All of my friends were getting corporate jobs, and I felt like I was getting left behind, but I didn't.
But your life kind of stopped when you got that news in a way, right? You were just like,
100%.
I need to be with my mom.
I needed to be with my mom. I wanted to help my family in any way I could, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So it was good that I went home. And I went home and helped cook dinners and like grocery shop. And I also picked up a bartending job at this like golf club.
Great.
10 minutes down the road. I also worked at Applebee's as a waitress and just was like hustling.
Wow.
Yep. And picked up shifts anytime I could. And I did that for 3 years.
Wow. That's a long grind to work in that industry.
Oh,
and
yeah.
post college with a degree, was that hard for you at
Post-college
times?
with a
Like, did you
degree.
feel,
So insecure.
were you kind of like mean to yourself? Like, I'm such a loser doing this job or whatever.
Alyssa, I remember getting out of the car one day and I looked at my mom and I was crying and I had tears down my face. And I was like, I just want to know what I'm supposed to do.
God.
Like, I just want to know. I don't want to be in this
Yes.
situation anymore. And I was angry and upset. And it didn't happen right away. It took so much time. But I knew I didn't want to get stuck doing something that I wasn't passionately in love with.
Exactly.
Yep. And I'm so glad I waited. Now, when I was bartending, I also started doing freelance. I would help people with their social media.
Okay.
I started dabbling with the idea of building a personal brand. Like, I had heard that term, but a lot of people weren't using it at that point. And I ended up helping my friend launch this company. She knew that I was a writer and had a background with blogging, and I understood social media, and she invited me to continue to help her like edit some of the content she was writing. And I helped her write a pitch deck. I helped her kind of craft the message for this company, and she ended up inviting me to come on as a co-founder.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that happened while I was bartending. And so I actually ended up leaving my bartending job and joined her full time.
Really?
Yes. And very early on, we realized that if we wanted to build this product, then we were going to have to fundraise. And so I helped her write a business plan, and we created this pitch deck, and we started pitching our company to like anyone who would listen. We got meetings with investors, and we started applying for different accelerator programs in San Francisco, and we actually did get accepted into one. And yeah, I helped her for a year, like really building this company, and actually considered like really staying on long term.
What kind of company was it?
So the company was called Event Hollow,
Okay.
and it's a marketplace where you can book all of your wedding vendors.
Whoa. Like a one-stop shop type of thing?
Shop. Sign one contract, pay one bill, and finance your event.
Is it still, does this business still exist?
It doesn't.
Oh.
It had so much potential, but you know what the problem was?
What?
It was really hard to get all of the vendors aggregated into one spot and to agree to offer their services at certain conditions.
Yeah.
And so that was ultimately in the end, I think that was the biggest struggle.
Bummer.
Yeah. But it was a great experience. I helped Jenna. Her name was Jenna. I helped her with launching the company, but that was also when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm so green. I'm so novice. Like, no one takes me seriously at all. Like, looking back, of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. Like, who was going to trust this 23-year-old with, money to invest in this startup? Like absolutely no one. But I took it to heart. You know, I really thought, oh my gosh, I need to build a personal brand, because if I don't, who is going to take me seriously? And I'm not credible. And so that's what actually led me to start creating content and start building my brand and like publish more on LinkedIn and Instagram, so that if people were to search my name, someone would come up and they would have more trust in who I was.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So up until that point, it kind of sounds like, not to say you were directionless, but you were kind of just letting the wind guide you and were like, okay, this opportunity, I'm just going to go for it.
Exactly.
And during this, you started to feel self-conscious about how you were presenting yourself, or like people would be like, who are you? Tell me about you. And you'd be like,
I'd clam up. But I remember the first pitch event we went to. Jenna and I had stayed up the night before rehearsing our elevator pitch in front of the mirror.
Buzzword.
Buzzword. I kid you not, till like 2 a.m.
Wow.
And the day of the summit, it was actually a summit, comes, and we walk into the room and we look around and we are the only women in the room. And
vibes immaculate already.
Perfect, as you can imagine. My stomach was so tied up in knots. My hands were so clammy. And I remember getting introduced to this old investor, and the guy who introduced us was like, so tell us a little bit about what you're working on. And I just fumbled all of my words. I was like, I'm Anna. It was so bad, but I was just so intimidated. And after that night, I was like,
Never again.
never again. And I will not be caught dead, not feeling prepared for moments like
You
that.
learned. You took that moment, you learned, and you pivoted.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah. But that's what got me into personal branding.
So you're in San Francisco at this time.
Yeah.
What's next?
I started building my brand. I loved it so much. I realized, oh my gosh, I could make a living doing this, helping other people do this. Because what started happening was people would find my personal channels and then find our company through my personal channels. And it was the most powerful form of marketing I had ever witnessed. I was like, this works. Why aren't more founders doing this? Why aren't more entrepreneurs doing this? People need to tell their stories.
Yeah.
So I realized, I'm like, this is what I'm passionate about. I got to go. I have full send. Like, this is it. And so I told Jenna, I was like, I think this is really what I need to do. And she understood. I think it was hard at first for me to kind of break away because we were so intertwined. Like, it was just the two of us for so long. But she knew this was something that I had to do. And so I did. I left, and I was still living at my parents' house. And I built the business in my parents' spare bedroom, and my mom helped me write all of the copy. She edited every single blog post I shared, every single LinkedIn post. She is the reason I have a business. Had it not been for her, had it not been for the fact that I'm privileged enough that my parents allowed me to live at their house rent-free. Had it not been for them, I don't know, I would have taken a very different path. But they really helped me and gave me the tools that I needed to like actually make this thing fly. And I remember the first time someone they signed a $1,200 proposal that I had sent off, and it was for a website. I was going to set up this guy's website for him for his personal brand. And that was the first time I had received that much money. And I thought I was rich. I was like, oh my God, this is it. I've made it.
Yeah.
If I can do it once, I can do it again. And I took that first check and I went to Craigslist. I saw that there was an apartment, a Victorian duplex in Oakland for rent. There was a room for rent. And it was like $1,000 a month. And I was like, this is my opportunity. I'm moving out of my parents' house. I just got this like first check. I'm going to make this happen. So I went up to Oakland and I toured this duplex. Loved it. I was like, yep, I'm in. I want it. And he was like, okay, I'll send you the application. It sends me the application. I fill it out and I end up getting accepted.
Yay.
And I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm moving out. And I tell my dad, I'm like, Dad, I'm going to take this. I'm like, going to move. And he's like, Anna, please don't do this. And I did. Like 6 weeks later, I moved out and I made double it the next month and continued to make more. And it was the best decision really I ever made. It was like so good that I was able to move out because it gave me the confidence. I was like, I can do this. So
I'm so happy you went for it. I'm proud of you. It's hard to listen to your gut sometimes and just go for it. And I think we were just talking about this, but when we were young and being naive helped get you farther. Like I made some bold decisions when I was younger, and I just had this blind optimism and faith it was going to work out, or I was just going to figure it out, and no one could talk me out of it.
Yep.
Like I moved to New York when I was 24 years old without a job.
Exactly.
Fresh out of college,
blind
basically.
Enthusiasm
Yeah.
we had.
Yeah.
Could literally move mountains.
No, I'm so proud of the younger version of myself, and I'm sure you feel similarly. Like, thank you for getting me there, because I don't know if I would have had the confidence, courage to do it now, because now I'm just I'm a little more measured in my decision making. I'm really weighing the pros and the cons now, and I think if I would have waited to go for it, I would have talked myself out of a lot more things. So thankfully I didn't.
We know a lot now. We know much more than we did back then, and it's informed confidence instead of blind confidence.
Right. So how long were you in Oakland for?
I was in Oakland only for a year, and then that's when I decided to take my road trip.
Okay. What inspired that? Were you just not feeling where you were at the time? Did you feel restless? Like, what was going on?
I knew that it was going to be time for me to leave when my lease was up. And my lease was up, and I didn't want to be in the Bay Area long term. I think personally there was a lot going on. All of my best friends had found like the people they were going to marry. I was a seventh wheel, which I mean, I had a good attitude about it.
Been there.
Like I was like down. I would go with them everywhere.
I'm sure you were a great sport, but it gets old.
Yeah.
It gets old. Yeah.
And I really didn't feel like I was going to find love in the Bay Area. I was like, my person's just not here. Like
sometimes you just have this sense.
Yeah. And I didn't feel like I clicked there. I never did. And I always wanted to go out east. Always a dream of mine. I remember telling my friend's mom once, I said, yeah, I'm going to be the only single one coming to everyone's weddings from the East Coast. And like, I said that when I was like 18 or something. It was the pandemic too. And so everyone was doing remote work and traveling around. And I was like, I'm going to stay at different Airbnbs throughout California. Like I'm just gonna stay at an Airbnb at a time and like be a nomad for a while. And so when my lease was up, I had put some stuff at my parents' house, tucked it away in storage, packed up my Jeep with 2 suitcases, and was like, let's just see what happens. And the first place that I stayed at was my friends Aaron and Brent's apartment. And they let me stay there for a week. And during that time, I had kind of had this situationship end. And it was just rough. I knew it wasn't going to be anything serious, but it was wishful thinking. I thought maybe something would happen, and it just was very clear that like he didn't feel the same way about me that I did for him.
He's ruining the day.
So it was just like the sting of rejection. And so once that had ended, it just sparked something in me. I was like, I'm getting out of here. I do not want to be in California. And I knew that I'd always wanted to see the leaves change colors on the East Coast in the fall.
You're such a romantic.
Such a romantic. And then I had this like weird dream. I was like, I'm going to get my master's degree at one of the Ivy League schools and like da 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 da. But like
beautiful vision.
Just let it just propel me. And I told my parents I was going to leave. That was Thursday. By Monday night, I was packing up my car.
No way.
Left.
You
Monday
wasted
night.
Not a second.
Not a second. As soon as I made the decision, I was like, I'm out of here. Because I knew that if I was going to wait, I might change my mind.
Yeah.
So the first night, I'm driving out. It's a 4-hour drive, and I make it to Reno, Nevada at 2 a.m. And I have a breakdown.
Oh, no.
It's the pandemic. No one is out. I arrived to this old, grimy casino. Men playing on the slot machines. You know, like it's like very eerie. And there's one lady at the front desk with a mask on. I had made this reservation for a room, but she couldn't find it. and I was just feeling really alone, really scared. And I end up finally getting a room, and I make it into the hotel room, and I just sob. I'm like, this is actually the dumbest thing I've ever done.
No.
Like, it's the middle of COVID. Everyone's like hunkering down. Why am I trying to take a cross country road trip right now? Like, this is a bit much. Not to mention, I don't have the money for this. Like, how am I going to make this work? And I called my mom. She didn't answer. She was asleep.
Busy.
Naturally. And so the next morning I wake up, I get on the phone with my mom, and I'm like, I'm going to turn around. Like, I think this was foolish and not responsible. And she tells me, you know, Anna, you are always welcome to come home. You always have a place here. But I don't think that's what you actually want. And I knew she was right. I was like, there's a reason I decided to do this. So she talked me off the ledge, and she said, just make it to Denver. And if you make it to Denver and you want to turn around, that's fine. But just try to make it to Denver. And I said, okay. And so I started driving after that. And as soon as I got on the road, I knew it was right. And I never questioned it after that.
Wow.
I had to have my little meltdown. And then once I did, I was like, this is right. And I was on the road for 2 weeks, and stopped in Denver and Lincoln, Nebraska, and Chicago, and New York State, not New York City. I went to Vermont, and then my last stop was Boston. And when I got to Boston, I was like, yep, this is it. I'm going to stay here. I just knew. I loved it so much, and I could see myself living there.
Wow.
And I found an apartment on Facebook, and this girl was subleasing her studio because she was getting ready to make a trip out west.
Okay.
Right.
Freaky Friday.
So I walked up into the apartment, and I'm like instantly in love.
That apartment
Was perfection.
amazing.
So much happened in that apartment. And I told her right then and there, I was like, yes, I would love it. I would love to take it over. And we made it happen. And yeah, within like a couple of days, I got the keys.
Right in the middle of Beacon Hill, right?
Right in the middle. It was on
I mean,
Charles
location, incredible. There was so much character and charm in that apartment. And you, because at this point I was following you on social media, the way you curated and decorated that place. And it was like, it was bit by bit, like you were thrifting, you were finding stuff, you were hunting, and it just was a little bit every week it changed. And it was so fun to watch it as a third party who didn't know you. And I just felt like I was rooting for you. I was like, yeah, keep going, like keep making your cool apartment and building your life here. And I appreciate anyone who makes a really gutsy, spontaneous decision like that to just create a better life for themselves. Like, I loved seeing someone else's journey play out.
Yeah.
It was really special.
Yeah, that apartment really was my safe haven.
Totally.
You know, I think once the dust had settled from that trip, I was really lonely. You know, it was not.
It was a lot of new.
It was a lot of new.
And didn't you move there like right? What time of year was this?
It was the winter.
That's hard.
It was like a Boston winter.
Go
in the
to
pandemic.
California to a New England winter.
Yeah, I didn't know anyone, like not a soul in Boston. And I really struggled. Like after, like it was a great trip, and I was on a high. And then once the dust settled, it was like, this is reality. Like I'm on the opposite side of the country. I know no one. My friends and family are all back home, and I had never lived alone before. It was weird, like learning how to like take care of myself. I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to do anything. Like I'm not even joking. It was so bad. And I really struggled in those first few months. And it's funny though, because in that pain, it's always when the best art comes.
Yeah.
And that's like really when I started getting creative with videos and like dabbling more with writing and really trying to just, there's this great quote that Meryl Streep had shared once. And I think it was from Carrie Fisher.
Okay.
And Carrie had said, take your broken heart and turn it into art.
Oh.
And I just kept that in the back of my mind. I was like, anytime I feel sad, I'm going to try to make it into something. Like, what can I do? Like, how can I
Why not?
make this beautiful, you know?
Don't stew in the pain.
Yeah. Take the pain and make something of it.
Yes, it's transforming your trauma, transforming your pain.
Yeah.
I talk about this in therapy all the time.
Yes.
Like,
it felt so therapeutic to do that.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Did you ever during that time when you were struggling think, I think I'm just going to pack up and go home after a certain date? Or
No, I didn't. I didn't.
good for you.
Yeah, there were times I was scared, but I never felt like, oh, I need to go back.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, how do I make this decision feel right? How do I make this feel good?
Because you had a lot of determination too. Like you wanted this to work out. You wanted to
Yes.
succeed. You didn't want this all to be in vain.
No.
So when did when did the tides start to turn in your little Bostonian life?
I knew things were really bad when I was drinking too much and I was eating a lot. But it was like not because I was like enjoying all my food. It was like a way to cope. And I didn't feel good. Like my stomach hurt all the time. And I just wasn't taking good care of myself. And I remember coming back from a trip to New York, actually.
Heard of it?
Heard of
The city? Were you here in the city proper?
I was here in the city proper.
Cute.
And I went to the ice cream store and I got an ice cream cone. I remember the flavor. It was salted caramel cookies.
One of the best you could ever
The
get.
best. And I sat on my stoop and I was licking this ice cream cone. And I remember
Hot.
telling myself, I'm going to change. I don't want to feel like this anymore. I'm like ready for something different. And I was nervous to say that because I didn't want to not follow through. And the next day, I actually started to change. Like I really was determined. I was like, I'm going to do something different. And I did. I started it was really small stuff. I was like, I'm just going to wake up at the same time every day. Like I'm going to take walks around the river and I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to drink this glass of water.
Small, gradual
It
shifts.
was really tiny. And I got into this habit of asking myself, what would it look like to love myself right now? Like not like tomorrow, not like in this big, weird, grand, elusive way, but like what does love look like in this moment? And it would be really simple answers. It was like, drink a glass of water. That's what loving myself looks like right now. Or take a walk. Take a walk. Journal a little bit. And I got into this really great rhythm and routine. And I was living alone. I spent a lot of time by myself. But I really like fell in love with my life. It was so cool. I could cry about it. Like some of the best months of my life were just like being by myself and realizing this time that I have with myself it's not going to be like this forever.
Right.
And I'm really going to try to cherish this.
Absolutely.
And I really did. And it was such a beautiful, it was summer by that point.
Oh, perfect.
Boston summer. And it was the first time I really proved to myself if I believe in something and if I want to change, I absolutely can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
You
possible.
did it.
I did it. Yeah.
And you really started to create and cultivate the life you wanted.
Yeah.
And it was hard work.
It was
like
so hard.
Like the great poet Taylor Swift once said, old habits die screaming. It is hard to break up with bad behaviors. Hard.
And it's only when you're just so fucking sick of yourself.
Yeah, you hit the ceiling.
Yeah, you're
like
like
I physically am so over myself. I have to do something to get out of this.
That was the point I was at. I was like, I can't reason out of this. I can't complain my way out of this. I have to do something.
I want to stress, because something you said is so important. It was small, gradual steps. It's not an overnight 180 turn. That never works. That never will work. It's way too much. You can't go from 0 to 100 when it comes to establishing healthy life boundaries and taking care of yourself. It is the glass of water. It is a walk outside every day. Like, start increasing your daily steps. Start writing. Start investing into nutrient-dense activities that pour back into your own cup.
Yes. What is life affirming?
Yeah.
Like, what is going to affirm me? What decision is going to protect me and nurture me? How do I make more of those? Those are the questions.
Absolutely. You're still working on PBA at this point.
Yeah.
you start to make friends, you start to build a
Yeah.
community.
Absolutely. I think social media really helped. I mean, during that time, I was documenting all of it. I was making videos on TikTok and posting every day on Instagram stories. And I had made a lot of friends actually just through like content and social media, which was amazing. And I met Crystal through PBA in that autumn. And she ended up moving out to Boston, and she stayed on my couch for 2 weeks. I'll never forget. She called me and she was like, "Hey, Vatuone." I don't even know at that point if she was saying
Like, you
"Hey,
guys weren't
Vatuone."
even that super familiar with each other.
no, she's
I
like-
love this girl.
She was so
She last named you. She said, "So we're friends." So we're going to be sisters, and you don't know this yet.
I remember the first time she called me her best friend, I was like, "Oh my God, okay."
Were you like, "No, we're not"?
like-
Or you were like, "Oh, this is pressure"?
I was honored. I was like, "That's so
Oh,
sweet."
that's so cute.
But she called me and she's like, "I got a job in Boston." And I was like, "That's amazing." She's like, "How much do you think I need to save up?"
You said $1 million.
I was like, "At minimum 4,000," which was very conservative. But I said, "Make 4,000 and you should be able to like figure out the first month at least." And she said, "Okay." And she asked me, "Can I stay on your couch for a couple of weeks?" And I said, "Let me think about it."
Because you were in a studio at this
I was
time.
in a studio, and I didn't want it to be a situation where either of us felt uncomfortable. I didn't know
Fair.
her, really.
I mean, because at this point, this is your literal safe haven. You're away from your entire comfort.
Exactly.
And you're like, this is my one sacred space. I have to protect it because this is what's keeping me well right now and at bay.
You nailed it.
I understand. I understand how that feels.
Yeah. Yeah, very similar to this
Yeah.
that you've
Like-
cultivated here.
I like to think of myself as a good friend and generous person, but if someone's asking me to stay on my couch, it depends on who's asking if I'm saying yes or no.
Amen. Decided 2 weeks. So
Okay,
I'm like,
fair.
"Crystal, you can stay 2
I think that's so generous.
Yes. So she gets to the airport. She saves up her $4,000. Flies into Boston Logan. I come pick her up in my Jeep.
Amazing.
And
Luxury.
luxury. She comes toward me, get out of the car. I give her a big hug. She's so short in person,
She is
like so
tiny.
cute. And instantly, I just knew we were going to be friends.
Ah,
It wasn't the kind of thing where you're just entertaining or you're playing host. It was like I could really be myself with this girl. And very
best.
rarely in life does that happen where you feel like you can just let your guard down with someone and really be seen for who you are. And
yes.
Crystal did that. When we first spent time together in person, she was so present with me and really so accepting. And I felt like I could tell her anything and she would understand. And I thoroughly enjoyed those 2 weeks she was on my couch to the point where I was sad that she was going to leave.
Aw.
And yeah, the last day she found a place and ended up getting her own spot and she made it work. It was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you, Crystal. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, Enriquez is amazing. Then I went home to my parents' house in Idaho, and that's when it all happened with getting Lawrence and Lisa. And that's when I called Crystal. And she was living in her own apartment. But when we brought the dogs back to Boston, decided that we were going to look for a place together.
You
Because
had
she
to.
was also in a place where she really wasn't sure if she could stay in her own spot. Like she was ready to live with somebody. And at the time, I was ready too. I thought it would be fun. I was like ready
Absolutely.
to have like a friend. And yeah, and then that year was so transformational for both of us. Whew, yeah, she really, I attribute my friendship with Crystal to the reason that I am with my fiance today.
Wow.
Had it not been for Crystal, my heart would not have stayed open. I was so at that point in my life jaded and just, I did not trust men. I felt unsafe around them. I felt like they only wanted me for my body. And I was afraid to really be vulnerable with someone, like truly. I would say all of these things like, I am vulnerable and I am willing to reveal who I am to people, but it wasn't true. Like I really wasn't.
You're guarded.
I was so guarded, and I think with good reason. And
Totally.
Crystal really, during that year, she challenged me to stay open. She would tell me things like, Anna, why are you assuming the worst? Like, why do you think this is true? And she would ask me these really inquisitive questions, and it made me realize that I was the one who was preventing myself from really being in a loving relationship. It wasn't anyone else's fault. It was me.
The call was coming from inside the house.
Amen. Period. And it was because of her that I continued dating Trevor and ultimately, fell in love with him.
You met Trevor in 2022.
Yes, right?
So actually more context. So I complete PBA in 2022. And then Labor Day weekend, we decide to have a PBA girls meetup because the small group I was in, we all wanted to meet each other in real life. So everyone who was able to go to Boston, because most people were in that area at the time, we met up in Boston. That's when I met you IRL, like physically hugged you, and met all my other girlies too. And we had such a fun weekend. We did like a brand photo shoot and helped each other with pictures and explored Boston and just gab, talk, connected, just had the best time.
It was so
And
much
you
fun.
had just went on your first date with Trevor. And you came back, like you reported back the next day. We did like a round table, like, let's discuss. Who is he? What did he look like? Give us everything. And we sat there and like therapized you through like everything going on, just because like, I mean, that's womanhood, just period. But it was a very exciting time. At the time, you'd only been on one date, and I think this is very typical for any woman who has ever, or any person who ever goes on a first date. You're like, I just don't know.
I was not sold.
You weren't.
No, because I was
How could you?
scared.
How could you be one date? I'm sorry, if you're sold after the first date.
No. And it wasn't because of him. It was because of me. Like, I was nervous.
Right. No, and I mean, he was a stranger too at this point, but you consulted with her and she was like very reassuring and just kept saying, I have a good feeling about this. I think you just need to try to stay open. Go on the second date, see what happens. You don't have to marry this man. You don't have to just see.
Yes.
And then I can't remember if we were still there when you came back from the second date. I don't remember the whole time, but lo and behold, it worked out.
It really did. And I think it was maybe our fourth date or something. Trevor and I were at the Boston Common taking Lawrence for a walk, and we see Crystal there. And so I'm introduced Trevor and Crystal, and we're all talking. And Trevor had invited me to go camping with him in New Hampshire. And I was hard no. I'm like, I am not going camping with you. I've only just met you.
No.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, let me go to the woods, in the middle of the woods with a strange man.
Not happening. I was like,
You think I was born yesterday, idiot? Like,
and Crystal is with us, and she's like, you should go, Vatuone.
she puts you on the spot.
Yeah.
She's going. I'm helping her pack her bags.
Vatuone, go. And she encouraged me to go. And that trip with Trevor was when I really knew. It was when I really began to trust him. It was so good for our relationship. I got to be with him. I got to see who he actually was.
Yeah.
We were with a group, too, so it was cool to meet some of his friends. And, yeah, she really encouraged me to go.
Was he really, like, was he taking really good care of you that weekend and going out of his way to make sure you were comfortable and just having a good time? Because it was a little out of your element, right?
It was very out of my element. He was very considerate. I remember we shared a tent.
Brown chicken, brown cow.
And I was so scared. I had so much
anxiety. You brought an individual sleeping bag you zip yourself.
I wanted to. Alyssa. I was this close to being like, I'm going to just sleep in the car. But he blew up this blow-up mattress for us. And the dogs were in the tent with us. He had his dog, Maggie. I had my dog, Lawrence. And I could not fall asleep because I was just so nervous to be in a tent with a boy. And I was just, yeah, I could not fall asleep. He was a perfect gentleman.
Didn't touch you.
He knew. He was like,
I probably prayed over you before he went to sleep. Like, so respectful. And kissed you on the forehead and went to bed.
Literally, yes. Yeah. No, he cuddled with me.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
I love that he went at your pace and just,
he did.
He was like, this is not what it's about. Like, I'm actually seeking connection and a partner.
Yeah. And I was upfront with him. I remember telling him in the beginning, I was like, yeah, I'm at a place right now where I'm not sleeping with anyone who's not my partner. Like, I can't, because I've just been through too much. And
Yeah.
he was so respectful. He was like, I understand. And it was not this big thing. It was
Yeah.
like,
But I've come to find out it's really just the testament of action and the pattern of action. And you have to observe it for a while.
Yeah.
And you really have to let people show up as they are and not be fooled by what they're saying.
and I had to be okay with like knowing that if
He was going to walk away.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had
You're
to be
like,
okay with knowing that.
right, loser.
Ciao
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He was like, yeah, cool. Like, it wasn't even a thing. It was not a
He wasn't
big
even
deal.
phased.
No, it was just like, all right.
During this time in your life, 2022, going into 2023, you're still running PBA.
Yeah.
I believe your client work is picking up.
Yeah, I was on, Alyssa, it was the time of my life.
Yeah.
I had never made that much money before. I was doing so
That
well.
girl.
It was all of these years of really hard work that just finally I felt like were paying off. I was like, dang, this is like what it means to like
Wow.
make real money. I'm like, I'm okay.
So your professional life was starting to check the boxes.
Yeah.
Your personal life was coming together. You had friends. You have community.
Yes.
What a
paid off-
wonderful time.
Paid off all my credit card debt.
Oh my
I had money
God.
tucked away in savings. I had money
401k.
had money set aside for all my taxes. I was like doing all
Responsible.
the things.
She was being business binge.
For the first time, I felt like, oh my gosh, I figured this out. And then I lost it all. Literally lost every dime to my name. It was the week I was up in Maine. I was staying at this cottage with Lawrence, my dog. And we were there for just like this little summer getaway. At the time I was living with Crystal, but I wanted to take this trip. And I was up in the cottage and I got this phone call and I picked it up and someone said, hey, is your name Anna Vatuone? Do you live at this address? Are you a personal brand strategist? Like, they knew all of these details about me and they were like, okay, we have some really weird activity going on under your name. We're really concerned that this is identity theft. And these were like really detailed descriptions of these details of my life. And so I initially just was panicked, like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Someone is like doing all of this illegal stuff under my name. Like, we're talking money laundering, properties under my name, like all of these things that they started listing off. And so they said, okay, well, we need to make sure that we get your name cleared. And in order to do that, we have to like go through this whole process and we need you to take all of your money and put it into like this Social Security wallet, they told me. And look, like now as I'm listening to myself speak, I'm like, this sounds bogus. Mm-hmm. But in the moment, I was by myself. I didn't have anyone to talk to. They wouldn't let me get off the phone. It was they were very adamant that I needed to stay on the phone, and this was a threat. We needed to solve it now. Mm-hmm. This was very time constrictive. And I started to panic, and I felt all this pressure, and I had all this anxiety, and in my mind, I was like, I just want to get this over with. I just want to do.
You wanted to resolve it.
I wanted it to be resolved. And so I was on the phone with them for probably 6 hours.
Oh my God.
They had me driving to different ATMs to take money out of my account. And they said that the Social Security wallet that I needed to put my money into was undercover and that I could access this by going to these Bitcoin places that they had at like all of these different convenience stores and gas stations. And these were government basically undercover spots where we did transactions like this for people who were in danger. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't allowed to say anything to anyone because then it would flag like something was wrong. And they had like all of these loopholes. And I can't believe I'm actually like revealing all of this right now, but I've just, it's been long enough where I feel like okay to talk about it. And I honestly don't want this to happen to anyone else. So I'm like, whatever. I don't know. So I have never talked about this before.
This is very generous of you. I know this, like, this was a very hard moment in your life. You were crushed by this. Yeah.
And mostly it's embarrassing, but I think where I really lost it was the very end. I wasn't able to get a large amount of money out that they wanted. They were like, yeah, this isn't enough. I had gotten out like $2,500 from a Bank of America ATM, but it was past business hours, and they were like, we need more. And I was like, okay. So I went to these different ATMs, couldn't get any cash out because there's like a minimum, or there's like a limit.
Yeah.
And they last resort, they were like, go to this casino. And sometimes you can get large sums of money out from casinos. So I went to this casino in Maine, Bangor, Maine, middle of nowhere. Walk into the casino and withdraw $23,000 from my account. I, at this point, am sobbing. This is like all this money I have saved. This is everything. And I get into my Jeep and I'm on the phone with this guy and he is consoling me. He's like, it's okay. Get something to eat. Like, we're going to get you through this. Like, do not worry. And I was hysterical. He directs me to go to this ATM and start depositing money into my Social Security wallet, which was actually Bitcoin. I'm standing there at this convenience store depositing $100 bills. I was worried that if I don't do this, I'm really going to have a big mess on my hands. If someone has my identity, that's like going to fuck everything up.
Right.
So I was just so concerned with finishing the task that they had set out for me. I was like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I got so hyper focused on it. And I walk out of this casino with $23,000 in cash in my purse. I feel so unsafe. It's so unsafe to walk around with that kind of money. And I get into the car and I am sobbing. I am hysterical. And this guy is consoling me. He is like, get a drink of water, get something to eat. Like, you are going to be okay. He was telling me of previous stories of women who had to go through the same thing and they ultimately were able to clear their name. And if I just did this, then I would be okay. And so he directs me to go to this convenience store and deposit the money into my Social Security wallet. I'm depositing $100 bills. And as I'm doing it, I'm starting to put it together. And I'm starting to realize that something doesn't feel right. And I'm watching my hard work wither away, disappear right in front of my eyes. I'm like, these are hours and hours and hours that I have put into this disappearing. And I start to feel this man's energy shift on the phone. Where before he was so attentive to me, so quick to console me. He was like with me through the whole thing. Now he's off doing something else. Like, now he's not listening to me. I say something like, yeah, I'm starting to feel a little bit confused. And he's like, almost the same way that it feels like when you have sex with someone and the next morning they don't give a shit about you. Like, that's literally how this felt. Used and abused. And as soon as I actually felt that, I was like,
you're like, oh, red flag.
Red flag. And there was this little sign at the very bottom that said, if you are depositing something, it's a scam. Or like it was some message like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm being scammed right now. I am being like, this is happening. I get back into my Jeep. I'm on the phone and I'm like, you guys just scammed me. Like, it was starting to like come back into my mind. And I yell at them at the top of my lungs, like, fuck off. Like, it just bubbled up inside of me. This is 6 hours of psychological warfare. And once I realized that I had just literally lost all of my money, I think I had like $5,000 to my name left. I'm driving home. I finally get on the phone with my parents and I am yelling. I am screaming. I am so angry. I am pounding the steering wheel like, fuck these motherfuckers. My poor dog, Lawrence, is sitting in the passenger seat he's been with me
Oh my
for 6
God.
hours, terrified.
Sweet, docile boy.
Sweet, docile boy. He's looking at me like, what? He didn't like look at me for days after because he was so
He was
traumatized
Yeah.
by my anger. And it was rage, like pure rage. And then I get back to my Airbnb and I call the cops and they tell me there's nothing they can do because once the money goes into a Bitcoin account, it's untraceable. There was nothing they could do. So I was so petrified and terrified. I couldn't sleep at the Airbnb that I had booked because it was out in the middle of the woods. And I said no. So I had the cop meet me at the Airbnb, check the entire property, and escort me out of there. And I booked a hotel that night because I just wanted to be around people. I was so afraid. The next day, I leave Maine early, and I meet Trevor for the first time in person the next day.
Really?
I had lost almost $20,000. The next day, meet the love of my life.
You didn't cancel that day? That's kind of crazy because if I had been in that role, I'd been like, I'm sorry, my whole life just ended. I need to go in a hole and recover. Good for you.
We were texting while I was in Maine, but we hadn't met yet. And he had sent me this really heartfelt message I never responded to because I was in the middle of being scammed. And I responded to him and I just was honest. I just told him what had happened. And I knew that was going to probably like weird him out. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's traumatic. But he was so kind and so non-judgmental and so sweet about it. I was actually so grateful that I had someone to talk to. And yeah, I met him the next day and it was really difficult because the first entire part of our relationship, I was the most vulnerable I'd ever been in my life.
Wow.
I had no money. I was struggling for months to be able to pay all of my bills, to pay my rent, to be able to keep my assistant, my employee on. Like, it was so hard. I had to borrow money. Luckily, my dad he gave me $3,000, I remember, just to make it through 1 month because I could not do it. And Trevor he stuck by me through all of that. And it was hard for me because I had worked so hard to be this independent, secure, confident woman. And then I lost everything.
It shattered
and I
that
wasn't
for
anymore.
You. Yeah.
I didn't feel confident. I felt ashamed. I felt so, at first I was like, I'm going to make it all back. I'm going to make it back in 3 months. And I was just like overly confident, trying to like make up for the shame that I was feeling. And then once I realized, wow, this is not going to just happen overnight, that's when the reality set in. And I really, it was really difficult to come to terms with. And then the market shifted. It was a different time. People were no longer at home eager to take a 3-month course. Everyone was out in the world again. So things with business really shifted. PBA wasn't bringing in as many students at that point. And it was all happening right around the time where I lost all that money. And so I really needed to pivot. And so it really, that year, it took a long time to rebuild. And things are great now, but it's interesting because I thought that once I made all of that money back, I was going to be myself again. Like, I was going to feel good. And that's not what happened. I had to kind of be okay with waiting in the discomfort of not having money, of not knowing where the next paycheck was going to come from. I had to just get comfortable with asking for help, with being vulnerable. And it wasn't until Trevor and I sat down, I shared with him where I was at financially. At that point, we were engaged, and it was a really hard conversation because I was afraid that if he saw all my finances, he would have second thoughts about wanting to marry me. And no, he didn't. He was like, we're going to figure this out together. We're a team. And the next day, I think I signed $30,000 worth of contracts. It was just
incredible.
But it took me being vulnerable in that place, allowing this man to come into my life And I don't trust. Up until this point, I had this broken relationship with trusting people, with allowing someone to come in to help me. That I remember thinking, this man is going to be my life partner. And I have to be able to let him see this. I have to be able to let him see me.
Right.
Oh, and it was so, he helped heal something within me. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And shout out to Trevor for being a man of character and integrity. Look at me in the camera already. That's for being so good to my friend Anna Vatuone. Okay. Keep it up. First and foremost, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that and that happened to you. I mean, first and foremost, up top, what happened to you was a crime. You were exploited and scammed by a high level operation, professional con artists. Like, these people do this full time. These are elaborate, high stress scenarios. So to that point, really not interested in hearing anyone's comments that are negative or abusive towards my friend. And if you are, I'm gonna fucking block you. So tread lightly. I appreciate this could happen to anyone. I mean, and I remember when you shared this privately with me and the PBA girls, it was so evident how hard this was for you. And you didn't even tell us
really closely after that had happened.
A day or two later. Yeah, that's when I met you.
How full circle moment is this?
There's many full circle elements happening
this
right now. This is beautiful.
Is so divine.
No, it is. It is.
I have goosebumps.
I feel God in this Chili's. Yeah.
Literally Awana.
Yes, full Awana over here.
Full Awana moment.
No, I remember being I felt so angry for you because I had understood as a friend and an outsider on your life for a few years at that point, you really had scrapped and worked and busted your ass to be independent, financially secure, helming this successful business. Really, like, all of that money, dollar for dollar, you earned that with blood, sweat, and tears. And for it to be gone in an instant over this like traumatic thing, and then like you're left feeling like you said so yourself, like you felt so dumb. And like, how could you fall for, like, how, like, I'm supposed to be an intelligent woman, I'm supposed to be a business owner, like, I know better, I'm not but the thing is, like, the frightening reality is this could have happened to anyone. When you were telling me that story, I didn't even realize it was a scam till you got to the end. I would have been fooled too. So to that point, I'm so sorry you had to go through that, and those people are gonna absolutely rot, and I can't wait for that day to happen to them, because what you do is awful and exploitive and disgusting, and fuck you. But I can't help but think that I don't think you deserved that by any stretch of the imagination. However, it allowed for this really wonderful thing to happen, which is it brought you down and forced you to be vulnerable, open, and just kind of lay your cards out on the table when it came to this budding relationship that was going in a serious direction. And I can't help but think, like, I think you and Trevor, for sure, like, I do feel like you're meant to be together. Like, this was someone who was supposed to be in your life. But that moment really, like, solidified. Yes. Like, this is a partner I'm dealing with. And
this is my partner.
This is a person who, like, loves me for who I am and not the quote-unquote mistakes I'm making. And how he is showing up to you in one of your most vulnerable states ever. Like, that made your relationship. Like, it solidified to keep going. It's time to take this to the next level. And it, like, life is so weird. It has such a weird way of working things out. But, like, I do believe you had to go through that for whatever icky, weird reason. But, like, it has brought forth, that experience has brought forth so much more positivity than you could have ever imagined.
I mean, it's interesting. I wouldn't have moved in with him, I don't think, had I not experienced that loss, because I can imagine I probably would have been like, I'm so independent.
Yeah, you're like, I got this. I'm gonna live on my own for a little bit. Like, I think there's a part of you that kind of just like, it shrunk you in a way, and you were like, you know what? I want to feel more safe. and I want
wanted
someone to be in my
safety.
corner and to help take care of me and like tell me it's
Yeah.
going to be okay.
Literally.
And hold my hand on the worst days.
Literally, Alyssa. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly
It,
what I
it
wanted.
was just like these giant arrows like pointing you down the path you're supposed to be.
Yes. And I didn't regain any sense of confidence until I just got to the point. You know, when we were talking about earlier, how we were like, you just get so sick of yourself eventually. You're like, all right,
Yeah.
I gotta change. I got so sick of myself saying things like, oh, this is so hard. When am I gonna make this money back? I'm tired of being broke. Like, I'm tired of like living like this. I finally was like, it's not the money. It's me.
It's the mindset.
It's the mindset. I'm not going to talk like this anymore. I'm not going to like quit in my head every time things get hard. I'm just going to be in this and stop griping about it.
You kept reminding yourself of what was done to you every day, and you kept painting the picture
Yes.
of yourself as a victim, even though like, yes, you definitely were a victim in that situation, but it's like, there's no changing it now. Move forward, onwards and upwards. Is this going to define who I am the rest of my life?
Literally. And as soon as I started to like make that shift, I feel so much more at peace. I'm like,
Thank God.
I feel like secure because it's not coming from money. The security isn't coming from money. It's coming from within. I'm like, I've been through it all at this point.
Yeah. I'm like, that's
Bring it
pretty
on.
brutal. That's pretty brutal
Yeah.
going through something like that. Like literally as an entrepreneur, like seeing your life's work go down the drain.
Watching
Crushing.
it, like actually in cash. That was weird. It's not like some
Torture.
virtual thing.
Torture.
But yeah.
I'm so sorry, but thank you for sharing. And, you know, this is a deeply personal story to Anna, and she is sharing this here because she doesn't want other people to fall victim to this. So thank you for
Yeah.
being generous and sharing this. I know this has been really hard for you to get over, and you don't love telling the story, but you're taking the power back. You're reclaiming it as a life lesson.
Yes.
And hopefully anyone out there listening, tuning in, if something like this ever happens, just know immediately. If you ever get any type of call and they won't let you off the phone, red flag number 1. If they're referring to all these things you've never heard of, red flag number 2. You at any time, it doesn't matter if it's a life or death situation, you as a human have the capability to hang up the phone. And if it's serious and real, they'll call back. Literally hang up the phone, call a parent, call a lawyer, call someone. Just run it by, gut check with someone. And I'm not even saying that as like, that's what you should have done, Anna. Like, no, they had you hook, line, and sinker. Like, this is good for people to hear. And this is a point you had made to me offline. You were away for the weekend and traveling solo. I think they were watching your social and they
I
knew
agree.
when to go and when to target, because it's not when you're home with your family
Or with Crystal.
or like people to run this by. It's like when you
I was
are
by myself. They
vulnerable,
knew.
alone,
People are
isolated.
watching.
You're out of your
creepy.
element. You get bad news. You start to freak out and you go into problem solving mode. Like, how can I remedy this and make this better? And oh my God, my identity.
After everything had happened, my dad gave me really good advice.
Let's hear
He
it.
said, anytime someone is putting pressure on you,
Yeah,
that is a sign not to move forward.
exactly.
Anytime you feel that pressure
In any aspect of
you
life.
stop right then. That story, I think, is the reason that I was here with you today. Like, to be able to
Really?
share that. Like, I truly feel like that needed to be out
Oh
there.
my God. So
Never actually verbally
talked about
out loud.
it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm deeply honored you chose this platform and you felt comfortable enough in this space to talk about that. I have nothing but respect for you. This has never made me think negatively of you, or I thought you were dumb for a second. Like, that never crossed my mind. I just felt anger for you and empathy. And thank you for sharing. So you've got your bearings back together. You are engaged. Very exciting. When did you get engaged?
October. Wait, no. Yeah, October.
Yeah, recent.
It was recent. We're getting married in September 22nd, the first day of fall.
That's stunning and gorgeous. Mazel to you and your family. I'm really excited for you and Trevor. I have yet to meet him in person.
He was very disappointed he wasn't able to come on this
Next time,
adventure.
Trevor, you're invited next time. But no, I'm really happy you found like a great man who loves you and you love him, and you've built this beautiful life together, and you have this like enmeshed family now. You got a new dog. You got a little bonus dog. Maggie's your girl now. Lawrence is his boy now, and you're just like taking on the next chapter of life. You're 29. You're going to be 30 in August. I feel so excited for you. I feel like you're on, I don't even want to say the precipice. Like you're already in it.
Yeah,
You're already like
I feel in
moving
it.
through the excitement, and you know, your life is about to change so much in a lot of ways. No, lots of exciting things coming down the pipeline, including your book. Lonely Girl. Talk to me about
Lonely
that.
Girl.
How the hell do you write a book and publish it? Because I don't know a thing about a thing.
Me either.
Okay, I love this. Real, raw, authentic.
It is the story of my road trip from Oakland, California to Boston, Massachusetts.
I will be buying and reading immediately.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you always know you wanted to write something?
Yes, always.
Always. You've
Always.
always wanted to be a writer, an
Always
author.
knew I was going to have a book.
Okay.
Always knew.
So this is a dream come true.
Absolutely a dream come true. And I decided I was going to start writing it after the night I took mushrooms for the first time.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
beautiful even.
It was
It was an epiphany.
epiphany, profound moment. I don't think I was ever the same after that experience. But I woke up in the morning and the name of the book was on the tip of my tongue, and I started writing the first page in my hostel bed.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It took me 4 years to write.
Damn.
Yeah.
A labor of love.
Not because I was writing for so long, but because there were periods of time where I just didn't pick it up.
Right.
You know, it was just like, it was hard to keep coming back to.
It's hard. It's a large body of work. It takes quite a bit of time to
Yeah.
literally put pen to paper and get it out.
Yep.
So, I mean, I cannot wait to read it. I know it's going to be excellent. You've really taken your time to curate this, and you don't half-ass anything. Like, your work is excellent, and you work so hard, and you have a lot of pride behind what you put out. So I know this is going to be incredible. So you are self-publishing.
I'm self-publishing.
What is that process like? I really know nothing about this, so please share.
I am learning as I go. I did get offered a book deal, and I was really excited about it. I really thought that it was going to go through. I hired a lawyer, and we spent 4 months negotiating the deal and could not come to the terms we both agreed on. And I left just feeling like I need to publish this on my own. Not because of the money or the rights. I mean, that's what it was on paper. You know, I was like, I want to make sure that I have equal rights to this book. That was important to me.
You didn't want to sign you did not want to sign away the rights to your book that you just have spent years pouring into. And you shouldn't. Like, you're an artist. It's your work.
Exactly.
You did the labor. I do think most publishing companies are very predatory.
Yeah. And I felt
greedy.
That. Not necessarily from this publisher. I have great things to say about them.
It didn't feel right. It didn't feel right for you.
The deal didn't feel right.
Okay.
And so I decided to walk. And they were like, I completely understand. And I feel really excited and empowered to publish this on my own, in my own way.
Amazing.
And I think that it's become more and more, it's easier now to publish a body of work than it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And what a cool time we live in where we can do that. And it's actually like, it can be accessible to anyone.
It's accessible. It's empowering.
Yeah.
I think it even gives your book more edge because you're I did this from start to finish by myself.
Yeah.
Binge.
For
Buy
me,
it.
It's literally just about committing to something, following through, and holding it in my hands. That is what it's all about for me.
And people say writing a book is one of the hardest things you can do.
Really?
Do you agree with that? You're like, oh, sorry, I'm a natural writer. It just oozes out of me.
I think, you know, what's hard is just, it's such a daunting task because it feels so big.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a mindset thing. The actual sitting down to write, that's not like, we can, I don't know, that's, you just sit down and you write, but it's the scary thought of, I have so much left to go. That's what's scary.
Well, you clearly are very good at breaking things down into small, tangible, actionable steps. If you all take anything from Anna Vatuone today, please take note of how she works. She does not try to bite the whole pie. You take a slice at a time.
itty bitty bites.
Yes. You do not overwhelm yourself. You set out to do what you can accomplish today, period. You check it off and you work as you go. You do make progress. You do start to really chip away at the bulk of the work, and you don't psych yourself out. You don't fall into the, because I struggle with this personally. I look at the big picture. I freak out. I have a meltdown. I start to procrastinate because I'm so riddled with anxiety over the amount of work I have to do. And I'm starting to put the pieces together to be like, I cannot operate like this anymore if I want to get anywhere. So it's little bit by bit at a time.
Exactly. I work in 20, 30-minute increments, no longer than that, because I can't.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I used to think, oh my gosh, I'm not as smart as the other people because I can't sit down and work for
please.
4 hours at a time. But that's just not how my brain works.
Anna, you're running circles around people at this point.
Thank you. So I appreciate that.
Like I said, multi-hyphenate entrepreneur. Hello.
Thank you.
You host a podcast.
I do. It's called the Personal Branding Podcast. And we talk about how to have an authentic personal brand.
Love.
Yeah, it's hard these days.
Yeah, is
It's
it?
hard. Yeah.
Talk to me.
I think it's hard in general to put something out into the world that feels authentic, that is authentic, because there's so much noise, there's so many conflicting opinions and interests and like ideologies that it's really hard to get down to the core of what you believe.
Yeah.
And say that with like full confidence. That's hard.
Yes.
It's not as simple as creating content. It's like knowing yourself fully and then expressing that. So I'm fascinated by how people are able to do that, their process for sharing who they are and expressing themselves. And so the podcast is really about learning how people do it and what their stories are and how they share those with the world.
I love that you're doing this and exploring this media more. And you're getting really compelling guests on, like people with huge followings online, people like I know of their content, they come across my For You page and I'm like, oh shit, Anna V, talking to them today. Good for you, girl.
Yeah, I'm really trying.
Where can people connect with this podcast?
You can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or you can go to my website, annavatuone.com. I've got all my episodes right there.
Lovely. And this is a friend of the podcast, so I want you all to support the podcast. This is not a conflict of interest. And even if it was, guess what? There's room for all of us at the table, okay? Anna Vatuone, I'd like to take a moment to ask you one of the essential questions of the show, which is, what is something you would like to be frank about?
You never know what is coming for you. We think we know, we try to know, we plan to know, we don't know. Everything is uncertain, change is constant, but the one thing you can rely on is yourself. And you can build that relationship with yourself. You can trust yourself. You can come back to that place of peace and security within yourself. It is possible because I have done it. And it is not an overnight thing, but eventually with small, gradual steps and with small gestures, you can build that with yourself. And that is what will get you through the hard stuff. It's not discipline. It's not consistency. It's not all that crap people talk about. It is the relationship you have with yourself. And if you have that, you can get through anything.
I'm sorry to the church, but a fucking men, girl. Yes.
I feel so goosebumps. I really wanted to say that. And I felt like it came out how I wanted to say it, which doesn't always happen.
You nailed that.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I completely co-sign that. You've really made an art out of becoming the person you want to be and how you want to show up in the world and curating a beautiful life that means something. And it's not for show on social media. You are living your life through the values you have identified are important to you. And you're practicing what you preach.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I mean it, girl.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
I love you. Thanks for having me. This was really fun.
Have you had a good time? This has
I
been
had a blast.
This has been such a fun conversation. I mean, like I said up front, you're one of my favorite people to talk to. Thank you for traveling. She drove from Boston out here, which, you know, to her, she's like, oh my God, it was such an easy drive. It was great. And I'm like, you're a hero. I can't last 2 hours in the car. I want out. I want
It's so close.
off. Yeah, thank God it's not far away. But I really, really appreciate you making the time to come. And thank you for being such an amazing friend to me and just believing in me and rooting for me. And I feel very lucky to have you in my life and as a friend. And it's just so crazy. You were just a cool girl on TikTok once upon a time. And now you're in my living room
Here we are.
as my third
You
guest.
made it happen. That was you.
Listen. Ask for what you want. The worst they can say is no.
Exactly. Call it out.
That's my lesson for the people today. We've had many a lesson. Anna Vatuone, where can people find you and connect with you online?
I would say Instagram, Substack, TikTok, podcast, website, LinkedIn.
Listen, she's
bus,
online.
Club. Another club. At ANNA, V as in Victor, ATUONE.
Please follow her. Keep an eye out for her book. Coming soon by the end of the year. We can't effing
It's for all the
wait.
lonely girls out there.
On the way, hun. On the way. Thank you all for tuning in to Let Me Be Fronk. We have new episodes dropping every Wednesday on Spotify and YouTube. Again, YouTube always has more of a visual component. Obviously, it's video forward. There's extended cuts, segments, fun bonus content. I'm going to be vlogging my weekend with Anna Vatuone, so check it out there. You can follow me at Alyssa Fronk. I'm on Instagram and TikTok. Those are my most active platforms. Oh my God, excuse me, YouTube. Hello. And I'll see you back soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Ooh,